Okay, so a couple of weeks ago I wrote a short essay which I thought might make a good op-ed for the New York Times. I sent it to them, and in the submission it says, you know, we only accept very few, and sure enough they didn't accept it. So I sent it to a few friends and they all thought it was pretty good, and so I'm going to, I hope you don't mind, I'm going to upload it on my music channel just as a verbal story. I'm going to read it from the computer right over there. Now this article is called Future SCHLOCK. Future SCHLOCK. Okay, listen to this, right? So it's January the 1st, 2070. That's what you imagine, right? It is 100 years to the day since the publication of Future SCHOCK by the late Alvin Toffler. That book reverberated in the minds of students, techies and strategists from Malibu to Moscow throughout the 1970s and beyond. It basically warned of the coming disruptive effects on minds and society of emerging technologies at that time. Okay? More than 50 years have now passed. The prediction was correct, but an update is overdue as follows. By 1970, the Earth's population probably fallen to about 5 billion people, most of whom still have access to some advanced version of the internet. But here's the thing. You can now log on to Amazon FREI website, select anything you need or desire, move it to the cart, and simply place the order. There is no need to pay. There is no need to pay. And that's because there is no money. No dollars, no crypto, no banks, no treasuries. In 2070, the AI robots are taking care of all phases of the production and marketing of goods and services. The entire value chain, as they call it, in mining, agriculture, materials processing, sourcing, manufacturing, distribution, not to mention coding, updating and web content creation. Transportation is by driverless vehicle or drone delivery. The great benefits to humanity, but not nature, of markets and money, the great benefits to humanity, but not nature, of markets and money, began to be understood around 3000 BC, but now in 2070, that's 5,000 plus years later, these benefits no longer exist. Money itself no longer exists. That is because there's no need to exchange or barter goods if we can easily order new stuff for free or dispose of things we don't want in nearby efficient eco-disposal systems. There is no longer any need to provide people with extrinsic monetary incentives to increase their productive or innovative activities, that's to say work, including service work, because the AI robots now take care of everything. There's no need for capital either, because robots can source and build anything, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including houses. And just last week, an American dock union spokesman on TV noted that robots don't pay taxes. But that, of course, is because nobody has to pay the robots. And that's the key point. It's not the taxes, it's you don't have to pay to get things produced. Human work in 2070 has also become unpaid or optional. We are volunteers and artists all. Simply put, you are free to be a schlock. That is a lazy, casually dressed person who probably never much liked going to work anyway. But you're also free to work hard developing your own capabilities, or those around you, in arts, sports, or even in socializing. In 2024, that's now, right, we can see glimpses of future SCHLOCK in robotic agriculture, which possibly marks the end of a post-pecuniary, post-capital era. So, I hear yourself asking, apart from this guy is crazy, not crazy, okay, what about land? What about land? Okay, so in 2070, what are we going to do with all the land that is not utilized by the vast AI agribot system? Undeveloped land is indeed the one and only thing that AI robots can't make. Actually, after writing that, I did think about those islands in the China Sea, right? So, which AI robots could make, or maybe create habitable spaces on the moon or whatever. But that's okay, so I should amend that bit. But it's also the one thing no one really needs anymore, at least as private property. For example, does the Kremlin really need the fields of Ukraine? I'm not taking sides there, I'm just asking a psychological question. Does the Kremlin need the fields of Ukraine? Well, you know, I mean, an AI could answer that, and everyone on Earth can answer that, right, wherever you are. In the 17th century, John Locke prescribed that in a pioneer society, each man should be granted property rights to, that's ownership of, as much undeveloped land as he can productively cultivate according to his distinctive abilities. It's an obvious and smart principle. You know, that you don't have to be a capitalist or any politician to see that that is a good principle. Now in 2070, growing food for yourself or caring for your animals, subsistence farming, has become optional because good food is instantly available from Amazon FREI. Animals can roam happily and on newly abundant public lands. Want a pet? Go find one. Public lands for human roaming, you know, just like the old days, are everywhere and abundant. Vacant used homes are abundant due to population decline, and these can be allocated by, say, let's say, goodai.gov in a reasonably fair way, perhaps with a lottery that takes into account stated personal preferences. That bit about lottery was suggested to me by a famous behavioural economist, Peter Earle, in Australia. If you want a stylish new apartment on the 4th floor of an elegant structure overlooking the ocean, yeah, I'll have that, or in a lush mountain valley, simply order it on Amazon.build, and it will quickly be built for free, along with the protective seawalls, desalination plant, green power, and so on, as desired. So what are we all going to do with ourselves in 2070? We can become artists, musicians, dancers, cooks, community facilitators, therapists, friends and sportsmen. That's to say, Homo ludens, playing man of ancient Greece. In the 1970s, I was briefly on a kibbutz in northern Israel, enjoying free food and accommodation and observing the free homes for the resident families. I did spend a few hours each day picking up stones from the land, which a robot could easily do now without fear of scorpions. At that time, I was enrolled at Oxford University, where I also enjoyed free meals and accommodation, not to mention tuition-free intensive education, meaning self-development rather than job training. Work just never interested me, right? But mathematics did. This was all due to a modestly left-leaning but human-staffed regime in the UK at that time. So that maybe that gave me these ideas, right? So it is a known fact that policies and institutions, whether human or AI powered, can potentially foster positive freedom. I'll just comment here, outside of the original script. What does it mean by a known fact? It means anyone who takes enough time to look into it will eventually see it for themselves. So obviously lots of people don't know this because they never pay attention to it. But that's the thing about anything like mathematics or truth, real truth, not this bullshit political, you know, whatever you say is true, right? But if you know, if there's a statement or a description where anyone or any AI can look into it, if they look for long enough, and that's an open-ended thing, it might take 5-10 years, they will eventually see for themselves that it's true without being, or false, without being just listening to other people, right? So when you say a known truth, I mean some people know it because they've been through that process, but a known truth, you know, like say advanced mathematics, very few people actually know it, but they could find it out. Okay, positive freedom is a classical, stable human good, classical and stable, that's been repeatedly emphasized on the political right, on the right, you know, Trump and all that, e.g. Ayn Rand in The Fountainhead, but also positive freedom on the left. Karl Marx talked about that. It means being in circumstances where you can develop your potential, and the pathways are there. You know, they're not all blocked off, right? You're not free if they're all blocked off. So, but Karl Marx found common ground even with John Locke in referring to people's abilities and recognizing the difference in abilities that people have. Okay, but the above scenario is not political. It's not the scenario of the AI bots. It's not some weird new ism. It's obviously not a new variant of capitalism. Can you see why? Because there's no capital anymore, right? And it's not socialism either, because in 2070 we can say there is no such thing as society. Well, a famous politicized phrase. Those of you in the UK know where that came from. But certainly there's no such thing as the kind of society that people debated or dismissed in the 19th and 20th century. The word society now means something completely different in 2070. It's not some identity-based political scenario either, because your identity is your ability. The much debated intersectionality of ethnic identity and economic class is now utterly meaningless. It's vanished. I suppose, and I just make the point that when you order on Amazon FREI, does it ask what colour or religion you are? You know, right? Or when you order on Amazon not FREI, same thing, right? I suppose one might say that the people who like, advocate or strive for the above 2070 scenario, you might call them freedomists, but that's just playing with words. But like all ideological labels, this is merely playing with words. Meanwhile, a new era might be slowly emerging. This is the end of the essay, one in which AI bots, MACHT, FREI. Apologise for the sensitivities involved in that sentence. AI bots, MACHT, FREI. AI robots will make you free, regardless of one's identity or belief or even preference. Okay? Now, since I wrote that was the end of the original essay, I had another little, what's the word? Idea. Concept of a plan, right? Concept of a plan. Think of a butterfly. So it starts off, tiny little egg, fairly simple molecular structure, biological processes going on in there. We can think of that egg as the human evolution up to before money started, you know, the old days, Stone Age, cave dwelling, tribes, some sort of agriculture maybe. And then the from that egg, the caterpillar emerged, and that caterpillar emerged, let's say 3000 BC, the era of money. And that caterpillar grew and became more complex, right through till maybe halfway through those 5,000 years transformation. And then it goes into a pupus I think it's called. The caterpillar disappears and gets surrounded by this biological material. And here's the thing, according to the biologists, in the time that it's in the pupus, the caterpillar's molecular structure undergoes amazing transformations, which we could think of as a metaphor for the amazing transformations from 3000 BC through to the Renaissance, through to the Industrial Revolution, and through to the Tech Revolution. And then as those transformations reach a mind-boggling level of complexity, what happens? Out of the pupus, and this is now in the mid-21st century, what happens? A butterfly breaks free and it flies freely away, and it's beautiful and it's free, and that is what the future that we should think of as a possibility, because the next 50 years are going to be pretty tumultuous, but there's always that possibility of the butterfly representing the future of humanity with the Amazon FREI, and there's no money and no scarcity, and you can develop potential just like what happens inside that pupus. You got it? Okay, that'll do for now. And I'm going to put this up on my music channel because more people watch that than any of my other channels. So if you want to put this whole thing to music, go ahead.